Hey everybody, this is Alex Merced from alexmerced.com, and what I want to do is talk about why Trump is wrong on bombs, tariffs, and walls. So bottom line, when it comes to military aggression, okay, we can have all the good intentions in the world, but oftentimes when you interfere in basically not in self-defense, but just interfere in the quarrels of other nations, in the disputes of other nations, what you end up doing is those disputes oftentimes are really complicated. There's a lot of factions in those disputes, and oftentimes it's really hard for someone outside of them to really appreciate the complexity of that. So when you go in there and you intervene, you oftentimes shake up those disputes, make them more unstable, more problematic, and you actually end up growing the violence and ends up backfiring. So you may be doing it for humanitarian reasons, doing it to protect people, to set a red line in the sand, but the intention doesn't matter, it's the result. And the result we've seen in history is oftentimes more instability. Whether it's, when you take a look at the Middle East and all the types of sort of regime change that's occurred in the Middle East over decades, or you take a look in Central America, when we've been involved, the U.S. has been involved in regime change in Central America, these areas became more unstable for it, not more stable. And when you take a look at Central America, the amount of stability that has increased sense has been because it stopped. We stopped going in there and just deciding which regimes we like and which regimes we don't like, and interfering in the disputes of other nations. Okay, disputes are complicated. There's a lot of factions. There's a lot of politics, and anyone has a tough enough time understanding their own disputes, the ones that they're involved in, to really be able to have the audacity to sit there and tell others that they know how their disputes should be resolved, and it generally doesn't work well. Okay, so that was bombs. Next, tariffs. Okay, when you impose tariffs, it doesn't matter what other countries' policies are. Okay, if you want to be the place where businesses come, you want to be the easiest place to do business in. So if you impose tariffs and then more retaliatory tariffs and you start a trade war, that hurts both parties. But if you wanted the U.S. to actually be better, you'd actually want to lower tariffs. If you reduce tariffs across the board, it simplified everything about the way U.S. handles trade with other nations. Because again, a business that sells to China also may buy from China. It also may buy from other countries. And basically every country has a complex code of what the tariffs if I buy this good from that country, if I buy this good from that country. If it was super simpler to be a company in the U.S. to be able to buy goods from all across the world, then companies that need to source their inputs from across the world would much prefer to be located in the U.S. because this is where there's the least friction for them to get the goods they need from wherever around the world. And you would actually end up bringing companies here. Okay, and then that would have a ripple effect across. Okay, if you basically lowered the taxes, lowered regulation, lowered tariffs, and just made this the easiest place to do business, where you get rid of the things that make it more expensive to do business here and harder to do business here. Okay, you can raise tariffs all you want, but then that also causes all sorts of weird currency exchange rate changes that have adverse effect on other businesses. So you create a tariff on one specific good, you may increase the demand of that one good, but then you change the value of the dollar. That'll have an impact on people who need to buy inputs from other countries, on importers who are buying goods from other countries, and you're hurting other U.S. businesses. So you're net, you're just saying, hey, I just for some reason want to benefit these handful of businesses at the expense of all these other U.S. businesses. It's just not a good way of doing things. Okay, so we've talked about bombs, we've talked about tariffs. Now let's talk about walls. Okay, if you want to understand illegal immigration, you got to understand black markets. So whenever a good and service is prohibited, we see the same thing, whether it's the drug war, whether it's immigration, whether it's people wanting to talk about guns. When you try to prohibit things, you create black markets. And black markets means more violence, less transparency, and more negative effects. So in the drug war, you see that in the sense where people end up having to take harsher drugs because the drugs in black markets have no kind of quality control, so people overdose more often than they would otherwise. Or if it was in illegal immigration, you sit there, they make legal immigration so difficult, so costly, that people pursue black market immigration through coyotes, which is much more dangerous to women, children, etc., who explore these black market methods to immigrate. And also oftentimes creates this lack of transparency and this confusion where there is more violence on the border not because there's too much immigration because there isn't enough legal immigration. So if you fix the legal immigration system, make it easier, less expensive, make it a better process, you'll reduce the illegal immigration, you'll reduce, and to the point where it's much easier to enforce, especially if you take care of things like the drug war, which fuel a lot of violence out there on the border as well. So you can fix that problem by taking care of the problems we have with prohibition, okay, which fuels a lot of the violence on the border, and also again creates those black markets in immigration instead of having a nice, transparent legal immigration that goes through a simple, easy process that's transparent, so that way we can, be transparent about it. Transparency is always better. You want quality control on your immigration. You want quality control on your drugs, or on any good or service. So you want quality control. You want it to be done legally, which means you need to not get in the way of it being done legally, and not make it hard to get something legally. So even when people make recreational marijuana legal, but they put high taxes on it, they create a high price point, which still creates a price incentive for black markets to form. So bottom line is, if you understand how black markets form and the effects of black markets, then you can understand the benefit of making those things more transparent with real markets, transparent markets that help reduce the harm and also make a more transparent process that benefits more people than instead of hurts people. So you don't need a wall. You need to reform the system and get prohibition out of immigration, out of the drug war, out of U.S. policy. So my name is Alex Merced. These are the reasons why Trump is wrong on bombs, tariffs, and walls. Hopefully you guys learned something. If you disagree, leave a comment, whether it's on Facebook or YouTube or wherever you saw this. And thank you for watching. And like the Facebook page, subscribe to the YouTube channel. Have a great day.